Hi there, it's me Audrina Lane here with you, and as part of my Music in My Writing interview over on my Facebook page, this week my featured author is Jane Risdon, one half of a duo of authors who've written a new book that's just come out called Only One Woman. And the reason Jane chose this chapter, she's going to give us a little bit of background to the chapter. Renza has been allowed to go to an army base gig with Narnia's children as long as she is home before the early hours. The gig is wonderful, but she has a nasty experience with some female soldiers in the ladies' loo. Narnia's children, I'm assuming they're the band, go back to their support band's derelict house out in the sticks to party, and that is where this chapter begins. And it's taken from Renza's diary, June 29th, 1968. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. What a dump! The local band seemed to live in part of an old house which looked derelict from what I could see. There wasn't any furniture to speak of, just old packing cases for tables, piles of cushions and bean bags on the red threadbare carpet. At least I think it was red, but it was hard to tell in the candle's light, coming from the Matthias rosé bottles dotted round the room. The light flickered on the Che Guevara and Ban the Bomb posters, giving them a bit of a sinister look. Very anti-establishment here, Dad would go nuts. Distorted shadows fell on couples lying around, mostly snogging or smoking, and a few were standing swaying to the music from the Philips cassette player in the corner. I was saving up for one I'd seen in Rumbelows. It was going to take another month to have enough, and I hoped it wouldn't be gone before we moved. I should never have got the Cathy McGowan Mini with the zipped front like Twiggy. It was far too expensive. It had left me without any money until the end of the month. I hadn't had a chance to wear it yet because I was trying to hide it from Mum until she was in a good mood, whenever that was going to be. I earned the money for my clothes, so I didn't see why I shouldn't wear what I wanted. But no, she had to inspect me every time I left the house, lecturing about what I'm wearing. Too short, too long, too much leg showing. Moan, moan, moan. The dress is gorgeous though, paisley pink, sleeveless and with a fab mandarin collar. Very sexy. And with my long white lace-up boots, I'm going to blow Scott's mind when he sees me in it. Scott had vanished into the gloom with the rest of the boys, and just as I was about to follow, someone lurched up to me and shoved a pile of home-taped cassettes into my hands. Here, doll, put some music on, there's a love. Your choice, but make it cool, right? And lurched off again. I was just about to say I wasn't the DJ and didn't know how the cassette player worked when I noticed a couple heaving and groaning on a pile of grubby cushions almost by my feet. I tried to avert my eyes and not blush, but too late. They rolled over and nothing in the world could have prepared me for the shock of witnessing two bearded men coming up for air, following a long, fierce snogging session. I only just stopped myself shrieking out loud and tried not to look at the couple, both with long blonde locks and tight bell-bottoms as they got down and dirty again on the pile of cushions. I just assumed it was a guy and a girl. Well, I would. I mean, blokes kissing blokes, and they were groping each other. Felt myself going scarlet as I'd made eye contact with them. My mouth gaped open, and total confusion almost paralysed my brain. They were nearly having sex in front of everyone, including me, a convent girl, for goodness sake. They just grinned at me and then started groping each other again. I looked away, confused and embarrassed, and tried to concentrate on the cassette tapes in my hand. But I couldn't help myself. I couldn't take my eyes off them. I watched them from underneath my long fringe, fascinated yet repelled at the same time. Had anyone else noticed it was two blokes? Of course, I had heard about people like them. I mean, we got sex education at school, and hadn't I been rescued from two girls trying to kiss me in the loos at Merry Hill, for goodness sake? But actually seeing them and watching them nearly doing it, well, that was something else. Part of me wanted to giggle, but I was cool, sophisticated, part of the in crowd. Wouldn't do to make too much of it, otherwise I might look as if I didn't belong, and I really did want to belong. I was supposed to be picking tapes to play, and that was hard enough. Working out which songs would be hip and which ones might not be was giving me a migraine. I gave up and put them with the pile on the floor, deciding to let somebody else pick the music. I glanced round the gloomy room, looking for Scott, or at least something to focus on and take my mind off the couple who were getting a bit too much for me to handle on my own. I eventually spotted Scott chatting to the Fulcrum's drummer. Someone else had taken over the music, and the Beatles sang Girl in the background, which made me want to laugh out loud. Not a hip thing to do. Wonder who chose that one? Somebody else had been. Had seen the blokes, I bet. I sat on the edge of a packing case and tried to catch Scott's eye, but he was too engrossed as he and the drummer poured another glass of Watney's from the party tin. Typically he's having another beer, and I haven't had a thing to drink yet. When we'd arrived, he told me not to drink or eat anything without showing him first. No explanation why, and that was ages ago. He'd gone off to the loo and hadn't made it back to me yet. Clearly too many distractions, not just the beer. Everyone else seemed to be getting seriously mellow. Why the hell couldn't I at least have some food? It had been hours since I'd eaten, and the sickly, sweet smell in the room was making me feel a bit lightheaded. The Beatles' Lady Madonna repeated on the cassette player as if the tape had got stuck. It was their latest hit. I loved it. I looked over and saw a girl in a flowing caftan reinsert the tape, and it played again. She watched it for a moment and then started swaying to the music all on her own in the centre of the room, her arms raised over her head, which seemed to rotate. I'd get dizzy doing that. I waited, but she didn't fall over. Several blokes watched her closely. Trying not to look at the two bearded beauties again, I stood up, smoothed my new purple Samantha Justy hipsters, and tucked my pink skinny rib into them. I wandered towards the wallpapered table and what was left of the food. A few soft-looking sausage rolls and a couple of Scotch eggs, which had probably been sitting out for hours. I didn't fancy the look of them. A few packets of Smith's crisps and some peanuts was the alternative. I grabbed a packet and a handful of nuts and tucked in, whilst I studiously avoided the lovers on the cushions. "Hi, babe, what's your name?" Turned to see a tall, skinny bloke with long black hair and a pair of lime green bell-bottoms grinning at me, cigarette dangling from his rather thick lips. I peered hard at him and then realised he was one of the Fulcrum's guitarists, so it must be his party. "Saw you at the gig tonight," he added, flicking his ash away. Yeah, I was looking for Scott. I was trapped between the table and the guitarist who kept blowing sweet-smelling smoke at me. I felt sick from it. "How about me and you then, babe?" He moved up close to me and put an arm around my waist. He smelled of Old Spice. I can't stand Old Spice. "I'm with my boyfriend," I said lamely as I wriggled away from him. "Don't look like it from here, babe," he said, as he grabbed me again. "Let's go over there and get to know each other." He tried to pull me into the shadows. "No, please." I tried not to whine. It's not cool to whine. The magazines all say boys hate whiny girls. "I really am with my boyfriend. He's over there." I pointed to Scott, still chatting to the drummer. "Yeah, cool. Come on, babe. Don't be like that." He tugged my arm again and held me tightly. "Please leave me alone," I whispered through gritted teeth. "I don't want to go over there with you." Someone changed the tape, and Amen's Corners, Bend Me, Shape Me got a lot more people on their feet, and I started to get a bit claustrophobic as they seemed to close in on me. My head was spinning. "Hey man, what gives?" I nearly fainted with relief as Scott came up to us and put his hand on the guitarist's shoulder. He grinned at me and winked. "Scott, hi man, nothing much." My captor let go of my arm and took a long drag on his roll-up. "Your chick?" He nodded towards me and blew smoke into my face. He started to cough and my eyes streamed. Scott said, "Yeah, she is," and took my arm and guided me over to the drinks. He opened a Pepsi and handed the bottle back to Scott and fished in my new Mary Quant shoulder bag for a hanky to dab my eyes. It came away all black from my mascara and eyeliner, and I had to fish around some more to find my mirror. "Oh, now look at my eyes," I sniffed. "Is there a ladies where I could redo my face?" I looked like a panda with two black smudges where my perfectly applied Dusty Springfield look had been. "You don't want to go in that loo, babe, trust me." Scott held my Pepsi in one hand and stroked my hair with his other. My legs went to jelly. I came over all unnecessary every time he touched me, and I felt myself getting all hot and bothered. Scott looked curiously at me for a few seconds and then laughed out loud. "Look at you getting in a tizzy." He laughed and handed me my Pepsi. "Drink that up and I'll hold your mirror so you can do your face. We can go over there by the candles. I'm sure you'll be able to see well enough to put your war paint on again." He held the mirror whilst I tried my best to repair my face. I felt his eyes upon me the whole time, watching me with an amused expression. My hands shook as I tried to reapply my eyeliner and mascara. Damn the plastic eyeliner liquid. It never goes on easily and dries so fast. I put some spit on the mascara cake and dabbed the brush over it and applied several layers to my lashes. "Stuff chicks mess with." Scott watched me closely. "You don't need any of that, Renza. You're way cool without it, you know." I blushed again. "Oh God, what time is it?" I asked as the Beach Boys started to sing Darling. "About midnight. We'll go soon. Don't worry, you won't be late." Scott put his arms around me and held me close, and we swayed in time to the music. My legs did a good job holding me upright. My body felt in a state of collapse. So close and held so tightly it was heaven. Scott stroked my hair and I closed my eyes and wished that it would never end. It was too much. I came back to reality with a jolt when someone bellowed close to my ear, "Scott, man, great gig. Hope your cats come and play with us again." The bass player with the local band held his hand out and they shook hands. He peered at me, giving me the once over. "No sweat," said Scott. "Where are you playing next?" And he let go of me suddenly, so I had to struggle to support myself. "Back at Murray Hill. We have 3 nights here before we go to Germany," the bass player said, tossing a peanut into the air and catching it in his mouth. "Oh yeah, of course. We're back here in about a month, I think. We're off to Scotland tomorrow, Elgin and Wick, and some other places I can't think of," Scott told him. "Oh yeah," it was news to me. More couples were dancing now, swaying next to us as Scott dropped his bombshell. "Then we're off on some cruises in the Med for a few weeks. It's good money, and our manager says it's great exposure." My mind went blank for a few seconds. A few weeks in the Med? He never told me any of this. A few weeks? Scott must have seen how stricken I was as he put his arm around me and squeezed me tightly. "Sorry, Renza. Only found out earlier. Was going to tell you, but you know how it is." His voice trailed off when he saw this didn't help. I felt my whole world was coming to an end. A girl in a tight-fitting bolero top and hipster trousers came over to us and flung her arms round Scott, kissing him on the mouth, a bit too hard for my liking. Scott didn't seem in too much of a hurry to push her away, and she melted into him as if she was trying to come out the other side. "Scott, lover, how's it hanging?" She sounded just like Fenella Fielding, all breathy and wanton. "Yes, Scott, just how is it hanging?" I snapped, and flounced off to where I could see Rich sitting on his own, hugging a beer. "Hi, Renza, babe, what's up?" Rick held the glass up to me in greeting and took another drag on his ciggy. "Who's that girl talking to Scott?" I asked, plonking myself down next to him on the huge beanbag. We both nearly fell off it as it settled itself in my extra weight. "Hey, don't waste good beer, babe." Rich held his hand away from me as I wriggled to get comfy. "Rich, who is she?" I asked again, as I saw her drape herself all over Scott and nestle into his shoulder. The bitch. Scott didn't seem too bothered. "She used to help Stefan. He's the band's manager I told you about earlier in the office in Jersey, and then she came to the mainland with her boyfriend. She's no one important. She sometimes hangs with the band when we're over." I watched her like a hawk. Scott looked over and waved. The nerve. Rich took a few gulps of beer and patted my leg. "Don't fret about Scott. He's mad about you. She'll get the message after tonight." I looked around the grubby room with its crates and boxes and fake Greek taverna decorations hanging from the walls. Fake fishing nets, glass baubles attached, and wine bottles with candles burning in them, and the couples seething in a mass on the floor, in the shadows, and on the cushions, doing goodness knows what, and I wanted to go home. Actually, I wanted to get Scott to myself, back home in the village, where things were normal. Magical Mystery Tour came on, and I suddenly thought about having to miss the Beatles at the Hammersmith Odeon because I was Mrs. Spoffington in the school play and couldn't get out of it. Instead of the Beatles giving me the thrill of my life, I was stuck on stage singing "Oh, I Do Like to Be Beside the Sodding Seaside" to a hall full of boring parents. not that mine bothered to go much. And I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to run out of time on this segment. So we'll be back in a minute with part 2.